All right. Paula, hi.
Hi, Chelsea.
Thanks for being with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
About what I do. Well,
Yes.
let's see. I've been a yoga teacher for over 20 some odd years.
Wow.
Wow, kind of off and on, and then I've had kids in there, and I kind of moved my yoga teaching into sort of the sister science of yoga is Ayurveda, and so I'm an Ayurvedic lifestyle coach. So I work with groups of people, like I run group programs. I'm in the process of creating a digital course that I'll be launching in September. That's a little bit more kind of self-led, but it's really a lot of it is around, what we do daily. Like Ayurveda is this ancient healing and it's a philosophy and an approach to wellness that that really requires that we live an awake life, and it's really all about holding self-awareness as kind of the essence of really good health and vibrant aging, and our own dharma. And it's this is how I'm working with people. So it's a lot around like daily habits and what we do daily, aligning with the rhythms of the day, aligning with the seasons, which is Richucharya, aligning, different phases of our life. So that, yeah, Ayurveda is like, it's really like one of the oldest continuously like practiced health systems in the world. Like it's upwards of 5,000 years old. So it's pretty fascinating how a lot of the teachings are even coming back. A lot of Western medicine is bringing a lot of this, just mindfulness and self-care and self-healing in a way, so that the two kind of go hand in hand. Yoga's exploded in the West,
Yeah.
and what people really relate to. But if you're practicing yoga, we're actually really practicing Ayurveda, which is part of, like your self-care too. And a lot of people just don't really know it. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's really cool to see how much yoga has exploded over here. I mean,
mhm.
it's been around for a long time, of course, but like, I feel like even in the last, I don't know, 20 years, it's like
Yeah,
really exploded where there's, yoga on every corner. It's like
totally.
Starbucks.
Yeah.
And I think, sometimes we think that yoga is just like exercise or it's just stretching or just being flexible, but there's really so much more to it, right? Like you're syncing your breath with
Mhm.
your movement. And then when you go beyond that, you're also looking at the lifestyle. And I think that's really how Ayurveda complements the movement of it's almost like yoga complements Ayurveda because it's like the movement of the daily rhythm.
Yeah, I like to see it as like, we can come into a yoga class and we can have on our Lululemons and, our aloe and our nice mat and all the stuff, and listen to what a teacher tells us to do, which is kind of handing over our, saying, you tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And we get a hit and we connect to our breath, and we, hopefully we can like zone into what's happening in the moment and let our worries kind of stay on the, on the other side of the mat. And then we leave, and then often people go right back to what they're doing. And so for
Mm-hmm.
me, I love to see what was, why I stopped really teaching public classes and so much more interested in this. It's like I am way more interested in what people are doing the other 23 hours of the day.
Mm-hmm.
How are they taking care of themselves? How are they managing their stress levels? Not just by, it's all good,
Yeah.
but not just like, oh, I go to yoga class and then I go off and I go right back into my old habits, and I'm not getting the sleep I need, and I'm stressed out, and I'm not nourishing my body, and I'm not, so for me, and Ayurveda really, the term Ayurveda literally means the science of life. It's the
Mhm.
knowledge of life, to know life. Like Ayur means life and Veda means knowledge. So it's literally the knowledge of life. Like, how can we live in the best possible way, even off of our yoga mat,
Mhm.
and be our own self caretakers, our best self caretakers, right? We're not handing it over or, um, you know, having someone else tell us what to do. We're learning how to really care for ourselves.
I
Right?
love that. It's a
Yeah.
lot like even, meditation. You can meditate for a certain amount of time a day, but you really want to try to implement that daily
Yeah.
self-awareness. So every moment feels more meditative, just by building
Yeah.
more awareness of your actions and your thoughts and like what you're doing with your time.
Mhm.
But, to your point also, wellness is such a buzz right now, right? I mean, you can buy a tool or a gadget to help with your wellness,
Mhm.
but, I just don't think that happiness or balance is found outside of us.
Right.
It's like we are our own best teachers.
Yeah.
And there's nothing outside of us that can give us more than what we can give ourselves. And that's what I love so much about Ayurveda, because it is really a tool to help us best utilize our own self-knowledge.
Yeah, exactly, Chelsea. And also understanding that, like, not every body is the same.
Mm-hmm.
And every body, depending on where you live, what your daily stressors are, whether you are, taking care of others, all the things that make up our life, like, we're all so different. So any like cookie cutter fad diet or fad workout or any of these things. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, like, any way you can get on the mat or get into some kind of mindfulness, thank God right now, especially in this past year, there's, it is all coming to the surface because people have had to slow down, or they're not going
Mm-hmm.
to work or things have changed. And there's this pandemic, and it's like, whatever's driving, whether it's fear, whether it's like just having more time, whether it's like, oh, like I can now focus a little bit more on myself because I have this extra time, or I want to be healthier, and I know intuitively that I haven't been because I've been so damn busy, right?
Mm-hmm.
um Whatever helps people get some kind of awareness and mindfulness. And sometimes you need to be told what to do. You need to like have that person that gives you the thing. And then it's like you said, it's through those things and going, well, that's not working for me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
or that diet, doesn't work for me, or that workout, I hurt myself or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's those little, it's being aware of that, noticing those things and going, what else? What else do I need? And there's so much to choose from. It's almost like information overload too.
Yeah.
So it can be very overwhelming. And then often people fall back into their old patterns, their old habits, because it's just more familiar and it's easier, even if they're suffering.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you said about, every body is different. That's what I also love. So I have this book here, my little Ayurveda Bible right here. And
Yes.
I think I mentioned to you, like I used to teach Ayurveda when I worked for Aveda, the cosmetic
Yeah.
company, and
Right.
it wasn't nearly as deep as you go. But what we did talk a lot about was the different constitutions. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel if you've never really experienced Ayurveda, this is a really good place to get familiar with yourself in terms of like where you sit within Ayurveda. Because like you said, it's like information overload.
Yeah.
And what I love so much is like you can go online and you can take a free dosha test, right? To figure out like what dosha you are or what constitution you are. And then it kind of makes it a little easier to digest all
Mhm.
of this information that may not be familiar to you.
Yeah. I love to see, like, those dosha quizzes, a few things. Like, a lot of yoga teachers are not even familiar with yoga. Like, in a lot of yoga teacher trainings, you
Mhm.
get maybe like 3 hours of Ayurveda, and it's all going to be like, understand your dosha. And
Uh-huh.
so that's like just scraping the surface, and it is good. It's like a good way I look at those as like, it's like a driver's manual to your body.
Mhm.
Like, when you can start to understand your constitution, like where you tend to go out of balance, that's what those doshas are. I mean, it's such a bigger, and maybe that's a different call if we get into that. But it really is, you go, oh, I see. Like when things get stressful, I go to anger.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I go to like, I get pissed off, or when things get really intense, I get really like worried. Like that's vata. I get like, oh my God, the what ifs, what if, or like the pitta is like, it's, you know, everything's
everyone.
a problem and it's my job to fix it, you know?
Yeah.
It's my job to fix it. Yeah, I'm gonna get pissed off about it. And Kapha will be like, I'm just gonna get really sad about it.
Yeah.
And I wish things could just stay the same. So we start to see like how we reflect and understand how those doshas, but again, they change, right?
Well,
so, like,
don't you have your own constitution that like, you know, you might share it with another dosha, but you're primarily one constitution?
Yeah. And, you know, there's the Vikrudi and Prakruti, if we want to get into like some Sanskrit words, but your Vikrudi is like what you come in with. I mean, your Prakruti, I'm getting them mixed up now. Oh my God.
I don't know the difference. You sound great to me.
Why am I'm drawing a blank. You come in with, like, what you come in with is like informed by your ancestors. It's informed by, you know, like that's like the things you can't change, like your bone structure, your hair color, the size of your eyes, like certain things that are just you come in with. And then there's the stuff that you can change. And that's like a lot to do with lifestyle. That's a lot to do with, you know, we're informed from the minute we come into the world by our parents, by where we grow up, by our teachers, by our preachers, by our peers, by the foods we eat, by the jobs we choose, by the relationships that we choose. And those are all the things that we do have an influence on. So we do have, you know, the Vikrudi and the Prakruti that we come, that are a big part of us. And then we start to understand, like, because we're all three. Everybody is Pitta, Vata, Kapha, right? These doshas. I can ramble, so you can pull me back.
Well, I think like, what's like the most simplistic way to explain the word dosha, just so people who don't know this at all can follow along?
It's it's like where you tend to go out of balance. It's like the fault line, like where the cracks are, so we all have Vata, Pitta, Kapha dosha. Now, those Vata, Pitta, Kapha show up in the daily rhythm, like the times of the day. Those three doshas show up on the 24-hour clock twice. That's a whole different thing. I'd almost want a diagram to show that. They show up in the seasons, right? So if you think of Pitta, like I said, a Pitta person is often super intense. This also encompasses the elements, right? The five elements. So if you
Pitta is associated with fire, right?
Fire, yeah, fire and a little water, fire, heat. When you think fire, like pointed, intense, like, you know, driven, someone that's just like, that's the goal, and I don't care who I steamroll, or like I said,
type A personality.
Yeah, if you want to say the type A personality kind of thing, go until they burn out. Right. Summer season. What's summer? When you think of the elements, summer is what?
It's hot.
Hot.
You're burning.
It's intense sometimes. There's a little water in there. There's fire, right? That's the sun. So like these different seasons that we experience too, which, you know, I think would be a great other conversation. But when we start to see that we are just a part of a bigger picture, like what's happening in us is happening in nature.
Yeah. And that really brings me to like the circadian rhythm, right? Like we're all on a circadian rhythm, whether it's nature on its own rhythm, us on our own rhythm, our bodies, you know, how the body heals itself. And so that's why routine is so important in Ayurveda, right? Because you're really like syncing up with the rhythm of the day and the season and, you know, the time of year.
Yeah, exactly. And the word for the daily rhythm is the dinacharya. Like these are the routines that we do. And so the Doshik clock or the Ayurveda clock or the energy clock, there's different times of the day that have, if you just think about 6 a.m. in the morning, right, or 5:30 in the morning is a very different feeling than 11 o'clock in the morning. Right. So 5:30 in the morning, that sort of between 2 and 6 time in the, like the morning time, is Vata dosha. And Vata, if we think of Vata, which is the elements, we go back there, it's air, it's ether, it's space. That's why a lot of traditions and spiritual, practices are done in the early morning hours, because it's more like nature's just waking up. I just got goosebumps. It's like there's this different feeling of life starting, right? There's movement, like air and ether, like, that it's like we take electricity out of it and we go camping and we wake up before the sunrise or with the sunrise, like there's this feeling of potentiality of like, like, how do I curate my day? What's this day going to bring?
It's like pre-birth.
Yeah. And 11 o'clock in the afternoon is sort of like,
yeah.
Like, okay, let's go, right? Because the sun, what's the sun doing? It's like rising when the sun is the highest in the sky, right? That's pitta time between 10 and 2. So that's usually when we're like, okay, buckle down, get the work done. It's also when our digestive fire, like the fire within us that digests our food, it's actually called Agni, is at the highest point when it's aligning, when the sun is the highest. I mean, how cool is that? Right. And this is actually when we want to have our biggest meal of the day. It's like when your digestion is like, whew, let's take in food now.
That makes
not
sense.
At 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So there's these different energies that happen throughout the day in the AM and the PM hours. So
you kind of started to touch on it, but what is like an ideal routine? Because so for those of you listening, I recommend that you sign up for Paula's newsletters. You can find them on her Instagram, right? The link in your bio goes to your newsletter. And she's so generous because the first thing you get is like a really cool AM and PM routine. And I think it's just such a great way to like get you started, right? Because like you've said, it's a lot of information, but once you start learning it, it makes total sense. Like it's not like, oh, like, it's really like, oh yeah, like, why didn't I think of that? Because it's so natural with our own body's rhythms and the world around you. But this AM and PM routine really kicks off like this whole practice. So can you talk a little bit about what an ideal daily routine looks like?
In regards to that morning and evening, because those are really big, because to me, it's sort of like the evening sets up your morning, right? How you end your night is kind of how you're going to feel when you start the day. Like if you end the night with, going to bed at 11 o'clock with a bottle of wine and like, a movie, and you're going to feel like crap the next morning, right? And those are, and then how we start our morning, how we start the day informs how the rest of our day will go. So, the dinacharya that I talk about, like these daily routines, are a lot about, so much more about, Chelsea, like when we do things, even as opposed to what we're doing. So when we're waking up, that we're waking up in this morning time, that supports us. Like you said, it's already what the body wants to do. Like if you think of it, one of my teachers, we were talking about this the other day, our body is the most exquisite, perfectly designed machine, we'll call it, there is, period. And it's almost like we are the user of it. So if we can step into alignment with how this perfectly designed thing, beyond what most of us will ever even know when we get into spirituality and like the bigger things like consciousness and what energies and stuff, but instead we like go as the user, I'm going to make my body do what I want to do. Right. So if we flip that, like this thing, this perfect Tesla of a thing, right? It already knows what to do. It knows when to wake up. It knows when to eliminate. It knows when to digest food. It knows when it needs to go to bed. It knows all these things in alignment with when the sun is rising, when the sun's the highest in the sky, when it starts to wind down, when the evening routine, what it's doing at night while we're sleeping. Like your liver is in full on detox mode. Instead, what do? We override its signals. Oh, I'm yawning, I'm tired. What am I going to do? I'm going to have some sugar, or I'm going to turn on a screen. I'm going to like blast. My body is giving us signals, So most of us, our lifestyle is actually going against the natural rhythms. What we've learned probably from our parents, or the jobs that we're doing or whatever, like they are not in alignment with these daily rhythms. So the dinachari is that when we eat, right, the importance of really optimizing our digestion, like I said, at certain times of the day for very specific reasons. So having our biggest meal of the day in that 10 to 2 time, when and how we go to bed, which is, a lot of people, some people can hit the pillow and they're out, but most people need to wind down from their day, right? They need to like detox from the day. They need to like bring the body from like, fight or flight mode into rest and digest mode. And that doesn't always happen just at the flick of a switch. So those evening routines are like, how do we set ourselves up for a great night's sleep? And we all know the importance of sleep. I mean, the CDC is all over it. Right? The facts are out there, right? The truth is out there. But that has to do with like, how do we eat? And a lot of stuff even goes against our culture, like the big heavy family meal at the end of the night. And then we sit around on the sofa and we watch a movie and then we go to bed and we're still digesting food, right? So instead it's like, to set ourselves up for sleep doesn't mean just like listen to a nice song or read a book. Sometimes for some people it is, everyone's different, but it's like, I got to eat earlier. I have to have an earlier dinner, like so that my body can actually go to sleep without digesting food. So in that evening routine, I talk about even like the lunch, like have a bigger lunch, have a lighter dinner. And in a lot of cultures, they do this already. Lunch, they have a siesta. They have a little break so that the digestive process can happen without being distracted. They have a little supper, really comes from the word supplemental, just a little something,
That's a great point.
So
I love what you said about really taking this perfect machine that we already are, and like utilizing it and making like understanding it so you can get the most out of it. It's a lot like an iPhone, like if you purchase a cell phone, but you don't like learn how to use it and you're not charging it all the time and you don't have a phone cover and you don't take care of it, it's just not going to function optimally. And, maybe the people at Apple would be like, we're giving you a perfect phone that will give you everything that you need. Just take care of it,
Right.
And so
or we jam it, or our computers, we jam them up with so much stuff that it's just like so full of stuff that the programs don't work and it's shutting down on you and things are,
and then you get frustrated. You're like, why isn't this working? And you're like, well, you're not taking care of it. Like you don't know how to use it.
Exactly.
So it's, I love this. And then like, when you talk about having your largest meal in the middle of the day and then, a lighter meal at the end of the day, can you get a little bit more specific? And, like I know, for example, like warm water, that fires up the Agni or the digestive fire inside of us. Yes. So like little tips like that, or like what time should we, try to avoid eating anything at all after, like anything more specific you can give us?
Yeah. So, it's interesting because this really, it's such a big conversation and it sounds easy to do. But for a lot of people, like changing habits it's hard.
Oh yeah.
Because our habits are who we are, and who we are dictates our habits in a lot of ways, right? Who we think we are. And so that evening thing, a lot of people be like, but that's the only time that we connect, or my husband and I have a later dinner and we drink a glass of wine and we talk, we connect. I mean, these are normal things that people struggle with, and they go, well, I can't do that. So it's always about tiny little steps. And when you can understand the why behind what we're doing, and really a lot of this comes down to digestion. Like you said, Agni really is at the root of our health in Ayurveda.
Yeah.
So how do we take the load off? Because we're not just digesting stuff like food, we're digesting everything that's coming at us through all of our senses. Right?
Yeah.
What we're listening to, what we're seeing, what we're taking in on the smartphones all the time, conversations, like like information overload. So everything the body has to process and digest it. So how do we take a load off? Right? So one of the big things, again, like I said, is going to bed. So for me to say, yeah, well, we should all be in bed by 10 o'clock with the lights out.
Yeah.
Some people are going to be like, that's ridiculous.
That's me. I'm like, oh my God, it's 10 o'clock. That's so early.
Yeah. But the reality of it is that, okay, remember how I said between 10 and 2 during the daylight hours, that's at time?
Yeah.
So in the daylight hours, that's when your fire, your digestive fire is ready to like take in food and nourishment and transform it and assimilate it and make it into body tissue and, get rid of the stuff it does. Like that's that time. That's at nighttime. That's your liver. Your liver is kicking in, and your liver is on a 24-hour clock. Like that guy does not stop. He doesn't take a break. During the day, he's working side by side with Agni, and at nighttime, he's doing all the other stuff. Like
and your Agni is your digestive fire. That's your digestion.
Yes. Now, if you're digesting food, your liver can't do anything else. The job of your liver, it's got like over 500 jobs, that guy. Like he does a lot. Like your heart, for instance, does one. It pumps.
Yeah.
Right? That guy's got like 500 jobs to do. So
he's wearing too many hats.
He's got way too many hats.
Someone's got to help this guy out. That's not fair.
So we have to help him out, right? He's the nighttime janitor. He comes in and he cleans up the mess every night. And then he clocks off. He clocks off like during the day. He's still around, but he does clock off. And the shit that the shite that he doesn't clean up, it just starts to pile up. Like he comes in after the party, he does his stuff, and whatever he doesn't get to, it stays there until he can come back to it and get at it. So that stuff just starts to pile up, right? That's toxins. That's undigested food. That's undigested emotions. And in Ayurveda, the word is ama, right? It's that which is undigested. So what we want to do is that how we set him up for a good night to get his work done on time is that we don't give him stuff to digest at nighttime. So if we can, and I know, like ideally between 10 and 2, those are his working hours, his big working hours, right? So if he's not digesting food, then he can detoxify, he can like cleanse, he can rejuvenate cells, like deep tissue cells, like bone cells, muscle cells, fat cells,
your skin,
everything, right? Do the deeper work, not just the superficial stuff. That's what he can do, especially the detoxification process. That's happening. But if he's digesting a bowl of ice cream, it ain't going to happen.
So would you say like 5 hours before you sleep, you should not have a meal? 3 hours?
Like 3 hours. Like
3 hours.
Yeah. So I'm not going to tell anyone like, ideally you do want to be in bed so that's what happens during that time. Because if you blast through it because you want to watch another episode of whatever, you're missing out on it. So you're not getting that processing time, that detoxification time, that cleansing time, that rejuvenation time, right? The rebuilding, the healing. Like if you're needing some deep healing, that is when we want to be knocked out, because that is when the body can heal. Right?
Yeah.
And that's also going to dictate how you feel when you wake up in the morning. Do you still have ama? Like we can go into this forever.
So would you say like if you're waking up feeling sluggish or like you're not well rested, is that a sign that maybe you need to go to bed earlier? I mean, probably earlier. Like if you're tired when you wake up, you need more sleep. But does that actually mean that you didn't get great sleep because your body was working too hard throughout the night?
there's different elements to that, but yeah, a big part of it is like you're waking up with undigested food, undigested toxins, right? And those build up over time. Like you think of it as like interest, like it builds up over time.
Yeah.
So you can get behind the 8 ball, and then that undigested, the toxins, the ama, it goes into the bloodstream, and when it's in the bloodstream, now it's circulating, right? Now it's creating inflammation in different parts, and then it's creating, from inflammation is disease, right? So there's a series of events that we can nip in the bud before that happens.
It's a domino effect.
That's a lot of being your own self-healer, is understanding that there's so much, like in Ayurveda, like allopathy or like Western medicine will look at a symptom and treat the symptom. Ayurveda will look at the symptom and go, okay, what's the backstory?
I love that.
Let's address the stress. Let's address the Agni, right? Of which there's many Agnis, but we'll just say Agni. And then, the lifestyle. So, and then, we get into other things, but that's that evening routine. So it really, I love, it's like your morning, how you wake up in the morning is your measuring stick for how you ended the night before.
Yeah. That's a great way to look at it.
And then how we wake up in the morning and what we do in the morning. I work with a lot of very busy women that are ambitious, that are juggling a lot of stuff, that have a lot of balls in the air. And we can do that for a certain period of time in our lives, right?
Yeah.
And then at some point we start dropping balls.
Yeah.
We wonder why.
Yeah.
Right. Or we don't take enough time to stop and ask ourselves, like, do I need to be juggling all these balls? Am I happy juggling all these balls?
Yeah. Do you want to juggle all these balls?
Is this sustainable? What about when I'm 40 and 50 and 60 and 70?
Yeah.
So the morning routine, really, for a lot of women that I work with, it's like the time that they get to themselves. This is like your deep self-care time. This is the time, like, again, in that morning time where you get to do maybe your spiritual practices, whether it's meditation, your journaling, your spiritual studies, whatever you're doing. Like to me, that's meditation time for me. I love to hear
me too.
Wake up. Yeah. And then also, like, what are we taking care of? Our most basic needs, like eliminating. Right. So if the body's had a chance to do all this and to process and go through this process, we need to dump the junk. We want to make sure we're not carrying that around for the rest of the day. Like, who wants that?
Right. Not me.
We want to have a morning bowel movement, right?
Yeah.
We want to start off with a clean, like, we want to get that stuff out. So, the other thing is we hydrate, and we hydrate not for like just sipping for hydration purposes, but more for like push that stuff down and out, right? Create this wave kind of effect. So we want to eliminate in the morning. We want to look at our tongues, like that stuff on your tongue. When you look at your tongue,
I scrape mine.
Yeah. Right. We want to scrape our tongues. And that's just an indication. It's not necessarily the ama itself.
Yeah.
You can say
what is ama?
It's with that which is undigested.
So when we're looking at our tongues, how can we, because I know this, like you said, this is kind of a barometer to tell like what the health of maybe our insides look like. What are we looking for?
Well, for most, it's a science.
Yeah.
And like, if you go to an Ayurvedic doctor, the first thing they're going to say is, let me see your tongue. It's actually interesting. I've been seeing an acupuncturist. He's Korean, and he asked me to see my tongue.
Yes, mine too.
You do this too?
Yeah.
But like so an Ayurvedic doctor, there's a science behind it. Like, there's different ways to look at your tongue, but the most basic thing is the coating on your tongue. And, it's going to be a little different colors for the different doshas. But the point is that if you see a coating, if your tongue isn't kind of a glistening pink, which it's not just indicative of the night before, but like I said, it's the cumulative effect, right? Then we take the tongue scraper and we scrape it off, and we look at that stuff that comes off on the tongue scraper. But if you get down to like, there's a science to how to read your tongue, right? Like, cracks on the tongue will indicate a vata imbalance.
Too much nervousness, too much anxiety.
Where vata tends to go out of balance. Yes, exactly. Like what, sometimes you have scallops on the tongue, or we have a shaky tongue. Some people's tongues are shaky. Right? It'll indicate different, like the organs of your body are actually reflective on your tongue. Like this is a whole different thing, probably not worth getting into because it's just confusing and overwhelming. But like the center line, that's your spine, right? There's your heart and your lungs, and the liver is forward, you know. And so there's different parts of your tongue that a doctor will look at and go, oh, your right lung or your left kidney or your liver is having issues. It's quite a science.
Yes.
Which I have not mastered.
No, it sounds like that's for the pros.
Yeah.
But the coding, I mean, that's pretty straightforward, right? Like you want less coating on the tongue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
starting your day with that is good. Remove the gunk.
And kids love it too, right? And so you can even download, like go to Google and look for like an Ayurvedic tongue chart. And you can download those and you go, oh, that's interesting. Look, I have bumps, or there's more redness in one side, or the heat. I can see the pitch of the fire in something. Like you can start to see, you know, oh, that correlates with that and that correlates with that. It's interesting.
Yeah.
In my group, we spend a whole week on sense organ care, like taking care of our senses and understanding, like these are how you take in the world. Our eyes, our ears, our skin, our mouth, right? Everything is how we literally experience the world.
Yeah.
So
it's incredible how connected it all is.
Yeah, right? This Tesla on steroids.
Yes. So I can tell you, so my morning routine, more or less, like I always scrape my tongue. I'll do the oil pulling.
Yes.
So like that's taking like a coconut oil, or what can you use, like sesame seed. I've never used sesame before, but I always use coconut oil. So coconut oil to like remove the buildup in my mouth.
Yeah.
You know, I do my meditation, I do my stretching, and that's kind of like my, and then like for, you know, I always like to have like a green juice and lots of water. And then like I'll have a meal.
Yeah. And have the meal, like give your body, like the green juice that goes through like in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then ask yourself, like, what do I want? You know, and then to have that meal. But yeah, I mean, that's great. And waking up early and moving your body, like having a breath body practice where you're connecting breath with movement, whatever that is, that like in yoga, right? Connect the breath with the movement. So you're not just like out there, but whether, you know, and there's so many different things you can do if you're going outside for a walk, or it's a jumping jacks, you know, some people like, and in my course, I'm like, okay, for the digital course, it's kind of like the 101. I'm like, what are the 2-minute hacks? You know, what's the 2-minute rule? So there's no excuse for like, oh, I don't have time to do that. Can you sit for 2 minutes? Can you do jumping jacks while your kettle's warming? Do that for 2 minutes.
It makes a difference.
Yeah.
You do it for 2 minutes and then you're like, wait, this is fun. Or like, this feels good. And then you want to do more of it.
Exactly.
You know,
it's kind of like, I think of it as like insert habit.
Yes.
You know, like just get the habit in there, whether 1 or 2 minutes, just get it going and then it'll grow.
And it's such a great idea to connect it with an activity, like what you said, like while your kettle's going, like do your jumping jacks, right? So when you see the kettle, it's like Pavlov's law, you know, you see the kettle and you're like, jumping jacks.
Like your little triggers.
Yes, your little triggers to remind you to do it. Because that's half the problem is you just forget, you know, it's a new habit. And then, you know, maybe you write it in your notes section of your phone, but then you forget to look at your notes. And then you're like, wait, a week later, I was supposed to be doing that and I haven't done it. So just having that connection makes it easy for your brain to remember.
Yeah. Like little habit stacking, you know, like when I get up, I turn the alarm off. I go to the kitchen. I turn the kettle on. Maybe the night before I filled it up. So I set it up to make it easy, right? I just press go. I go to the bathroom. I pee. I scrape my tongue. I put my oil in my mouth. Maybe I sit. I like to sit with my oil in my mouth. You know, you have these little things. And it's just like working a muscle. And the other thing is like, forget perfection.
Yeah.
Like, what do I do most of the time? Because we all have habits.
Yeah.
Good ones or bad ones.
Yeah.
Right. So this about being very, very, it's like in yoga, there's some samskaras, they call them, like your patterns. Like if you think of the wheel of a tire and the sand of a bike, the more you spin it, the deeper it gets. The deeper that groove gets and the harder it is to get out of it. So changing habits is a big part of it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I love Ayurveda and I love you'll see a practitioner or a doctor and they'll tell you what you need to do, but they don't tell you how.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how I work with people, is like, how do we do it? How do we do these little steps, the Kaizen steps, in the direction of our goal? Let's get really clear on what the goal is. How do we just do tiny little steps towards it? Otherwise, what happens? People are like, if I can't do it perfectly, why bother?
Yeah.
Forget it. I'll just, if I had one glass of wine, tonight, I might as well drink the whole bottle, or
just drink 3 more glasses.
Whatever the case.
Yeah.
Or I'm not capable, and we'll come up with a million reasons why not. But it's like, what are the tiniest little things you can do? And like you said, in the morning, these tiny little routines, and that's what I talk about in that AM guide, is like, what's possible, what's there. Don't try and do everything. What do you want to do right now? What appeals to you? Right?
Exactly. And you should enjoy it. And what I always tell myself is there's no rush. You have your whole life to develop yourself. Like, trying to put all this pressure on yourself to remember it and do it perfectly, every day, every time, is just like, to me, it's just silly. But what we're doing, though, is creating a really great baseline, so like, eventually you get to this place where when you don't do these things, you can actually feel the difference. And then you're encouraged to jump back on the wagon the next day, because your baseline is health, or your baseline is feeling good when you start your day rather than chaotic.
Yeah. Were you in my group at some point?
No, but I wish. I want to join your group.
Because you just nailed it, Chelsea. Because the thing is, like I said earlier, like, we have a choice. Everything's a choice point. We have good habits, we have bad habits, right?
Yeah.
And what's a habit? A habit is something that you do automatically. You don't think about it. I get up, I pee, I brush my teeth. Most people do, right? They don't even think about it, right? So now it's like, how do I design for what I want, right? And yes, sometimes I got to write it down. I got to set a timer. I got to, use a trigger. I got to use all these little things to help me remember it. But ideally, what do we want to do? It's just what we do. It's that now is the most of the time. I'm going to go to Tulum for 2 weeks and have do blah, 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 and be off my schedule and sleep in. That's some of the time.
Yeah.
It's not the other way around. Yeah. Right? It's like, what do you do most of the time? And not shooting for perfection, of course, because it's a lifetime thing. And things happen in life, like babies happen, and divorces happen, and loss happens, and things happen that throw us off. But it becomes like your bounce back. You come back faster to it, because that's what that becomes the habit. That becomes the normal.
Yeah.
As opposed to I stay up and I get stuff done at night, and I do the laundry, and I catch up on my computer, and I watch TV, and then I go to bed, and then I wake up and I put on the coffee, and I hit the ground running, and the kids are screaming, and that's normal. That's my normal crazy busy life, as opposed to, sometimes that happens.
Right. And one of the first things I tried with Ayurveda, like when it comes to like incorporating it into my day-to-day, was dry body brushing. And I find that, like, if you are someone who likes to like see and feel immediate results when you're trying out a new habit, that's a good place to start, because you have the dry body brush that's great for lymphatic drainage, but you're also getting the benefit of exfoliation, and your skin feels soft, and it it looks smoother. So immediately you can say, oh, like, I like this, or I don't like this, right? Because you can immediately see the results of that action.
Yeah.
But I found that was a good place for me to start.
Yeah. And, again, like, we spend a whole week on self-massage in my program, because really what it is about using your hands to heal. Right. And whether it's dry brushing, there is the brush, it's not your hands on skin, but sometimes for some people, that's where they need to start.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, and I'm just saying, a lot of people might have trauma around that. Around putting their hands on themselves, right? Or they may they go out and they'll outsource it. I'll go pay somebody to do that, or to massage me, or to exfoliate me, or to get the salt scrub at the Korean spa, which is awesome sometimes too, But when we think of our daily habits, and for me, that's such a big one. I have a 15-year-old daughter And I mean, I can't say I've done it perfectly with her at all. Like when she was really little, I have a 9-year-old son too, that I'm now teaching, like, hey, we put oil on our body,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have an out, like something hurts, you rub it. I want you to learn how to rub your own, right? Because you know how it feels when you rub that sore muscle.
Mm-hmm.
You know more than I do. I can guess, like when we go
Mm-hmm.
to a massage therapist or we outsource.
Yeah.
How do we insource things? So dry brushing is great. Dry brushing is even better for people that, I mean, I don't want to get into, but like a kapha type, someone that's um, got more oil in their skin,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that is maybe that needs a little more stimulation, because it can also be really stimulating for us vata types who
Yeah.
also probably have more dry skin.
Yes.
So it's great. And then I would recommend then put oil on
Mm-hmm.
after that, because most of us are dehydrated, like
Yeah.
really. And that's the whole thing. Like you mentioned the hot water, and I'm leading my group through a seasonal cleanse. I usually offer it to the public, but this year I decided not to because of just time, and I'm building this course to launch in September. But like drinking hot water is all about really hydrating ourselves on a deeper level, and also helping like the toxins move out, which is also what self massage is doing, what dry brushing is doing, right? It's stimulating the surface, the lymphatic drainage and all that. So that's a huge one. Like self massage to me is like one of the biggest gifts we can give ourselves,
Yeah.
especially for women that were maybe, no, I take that back, for everybody,
Yeah.
but knowing that we have the power in our own hands on our own bodies. And that's okay. Like that's a great thing that we can do.
It's such a powerful tool, like
Such a
that
powerful tool.
self-sufficiency is like so important.
Yeah, exactly. And it's self-love,
Mm-hmm.
right? How many people are like going around feeling they're not good enough, or they're not worthy, or they don't like themselves, or
Yeah.
all that stuff. And especially in, like I was saying, I have a 15-year-old daughter, and the social media and all the messaging they're getting about what's perfect and what your body should look like and blah 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 blah, what
Yeah.
it should be,
Yeah.
not what are you, what's right for you. So for me, it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's like rub the parts of your body that you don't like more.
Yeah.
Like put your hands on your thighs, or moms, if you've had babies and you're like, I want to wear a two-piece, and rub your belly with oil. Like
Mm-hmm.
love your body, love on the parts that you least love. That's
Yeah.
when your body starts to work with you, and you're more in a collaboration with your body, not in a battle with your body.
And applying it in a way that like applying it to yourself as if you're applying it to someone you love.
Yeah,
Like be in the
sure.
moment and like really like feel your hands on your skin and like feel the pressure and like take your time. Like don't just like slap on the oil, like really like be
Yeah,
there with yourself. I find that makes a huge difference in the
yeah,
moment.
totally. And hey, like sometimes like and we talk a lot about this, sometimes you don't have 20 minutes every night to get the old towels and to do the full thing and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But what can you do at night? I can put a little oil on my hand with some like, frankincense or lavender, and I can rub my own hand.
Yeah.
I can give my foot a 2-minute foot rub,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's not like, well, I don't have time for self massage, but yeah, you do. Before you go to bed, put your oil by the bed. Make a
Yeah.
little tincture of your oil and your essential oil and rub your feet for a minute. That's enough.
It's so relaxing.
Yeah.
It feels so good.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with going out and getting a great back rub, or teaching your,
Yeah.
partner how to give you a good rub too. My son already is like, can you rub my back? Like my
Yeah.
son is like I tease, I said, I'm like a total massage whore.
Yeah.
know,
Give massages to everyone.
I know. But it is one of those great like I love, and in the evening routine, I think I bring in some winding down and using self massage, and it's so funny. People go, I don't have time for all this stuff. I'm like, oh, but you have 2 hours time. You have 2 hours to spend on your Instagram account.
Yeah.
You don't have an hour or 45 minutes in the morning to take care of like your most basic health
Yeah.
requirements to live a vital, vibrant life.
And a lot of times we're on Instagram and we don't even realize it. You know, it's like this just addiction where you're bored and your phone's here and you just pick it up and you start scrolling. But it actually feels good to like take charge of your moment and say, I have no reason to be on Instagram right now. Like, just turn off my senses, sit with myself. And it actually like gives me like a surge of energy and like groundedness. I feel so much better making that choice than I do when I just scroll for days.
Yeah, especially at night. You know, we talk about this, or I talk about this in that evening routine. It's like, and listen, it's like, I've got articles in the New York Times. Like, it is not a hidden secret anymore. Like, turn the screens off.
Oh yeah.
You know, like
they say you scroll the length of the Empire State Building a day.
Oh my God.
like massage your fingers if you're doing that. Like,
right.
You have to take care of your hands. Exactly.
But the blue light, you know, really has a huge impact on, you know, and our melatonin and what the body's doing. It's like, it says, wake up. It's like, but okay. And then you come to me and you say you have sleep issues. Well, let's go there. Like, what are you doing? How are you going to sleep at night? Because sleep really is, you know, it's the best medicine. It is the best medicine. And like we said earlier, like when you're asleep, it's also when the most healing takes place on all levels. So it's powerful. So that's, you know, I'm like, go upstairs or put your phone, make it a little bed, give it a little garbage buddy or whatever is, you know, cat toy or something to go to sleep with. Put it away, give it a break, you know, go read a book, go rub yourself, go whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever works.
Whatever works. Listen, we're not here to judge. We're just here to encourage, to do whatever works.
Yeah. I don't care what you're rubbing. I mean, this.
All right. Well, I think this is a great place to end. Paula, where can people find more of you?
Well, Instagram, I'm at mindbodybrightglowwithsoul. I also have a Facebook group. It's a private group. You just have to answer a few questions and give me your email before you can join it. But I'm bringing in a lot of, I've been so kind of busy with my groups and my business, but I'm really trying to make that a place for connection, for healthy conversations. I'm showing up in there a lot more where people can tag me. It's free coaching. Nice. And so that's my Facebook group. It's Mind, Body, Bright, Glow with Soul. And what else? My get on my email list because that's where I'm engaging.
It's a good email list to be on, guys. You're not just getting spam. Like, everything that you send out is super helpful. I always look forward to it hitting my inbox. It's definitely worth signing up for. And I will put all this information in the show notes so you guys don't have to remember this. This will be, you know, tagged.
Yeah, sweet. And what I'm doing too with, like, right now I'm posting because we're in this seasonal cleanse, this spring cleanse. And because I didn't open it up to the public, I'm like, oh, but they need to know some stuff. So every day I'm trying to like just post a little tidbit. And then what I'm going to do is at the end of it, I'm going to create it all kind of in a little package where you can sign up for it and get it all kind of in a PDF download just to have little nuggets of it. And then through the emails, my next couple of weeks, I'm just kind of hitting on some of these little habits. But that's a great way also to keep in touch with me about what's happening when I launch this course in September, which I'm really super excited about. So it'll be kind of like the 101, but it's like habit change science, it's Ayurveda, it's yoga, it's like the daily routine. That's what it is. It's really about this, but not just like what you have to do, but how we're going to do it. And with a lot of support and, you know, connection and stuff. So.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. Well, I'm definitely going to check that out.
Good. Well, you're on my list. So
you'll
be privy to what's going on.
I'll get the update. Everyone else, you should too. And thank you so much, Paula. This has been such a joy. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Thank you, Chelsea.
My pleasure.
Be in touch. Okay.